My name is Diego, and I was there when Sarah's story changed forever. It was a crisp autumn morning on October 12th, the kind that fills the air with the rich aroma of brewing coffee from the cafe where she stood, her heart racing as she waited for the news that would shatter her world. Just a week after her divorce from her ex-husband, she smiled at the barista, but the light in her eyes was overshadowed by uncertainty. The soft chirping of birds outside seemed to mock her, their cheerful melodies contrasting sharply with the betrayal that clung to her like a second skin. She smiled, but trembled, caught between the remnants of love and the weight of deception. How can blood turn to poison like this? What nobody knew was that the truth lurking beneath the surface would reveal a web of secrets that threatened to engulf her completely. Among those secrets was a married secret, only known to a select few, one that would challenge everything Sarah thought she knew about trust and loyalty, and ultimately force her to confront the darkness that lay hidden within her past. The morning light crept through the kitchen window, casting soft shadows on the countertop where Sarah had just set down a stack of fluffy pancakes. The rich, warm aroma wafted through the air, mingling with the inviting scent of freshly brewed coffee. She could hear the gentle chirping of birds outside, a comforting reminder of the world awakening just beyond her home. This was her sanctuary, a place where she had always felt strong, surrounded by the love of her family. As she poured syrup over the pancakes, she felt a swell of pride. This morning ritual was a staple in their household, a small but significant moment where the family gathered to share laughter and stories before heading into the chaos of the day. Today, she hoped for a pleasant breakfast, where her son Michael would share his plans for the weekend. Just then, the sound of her phone vibrating against the table interrupted her thoughts. It was Mark, her loyal friend and confidant. She smiled, knowing he always had a knack from knowing when she needed a little support. "Hey Sarah, how's the pancake game this morning?" Mark's voice crackled with warmth over the phone. "Oh, you know me, always trying to perfect the art of breakfast. Just flipped a perfect stack," she replied, feeling a sense of joy. "How's everything with you?" "Can't complain, just keeping busy with work. But I heard from Jake that Michael has some big news he's been keeping under wraps," Mark said, a hint of curiosity in his tone. Sarah's heart skipped a beat. "Big news? What do you mean?" "Something about a ceremony," Mark continued. "I think he's been planning it for a while." Sarah paused, the spatula hovering over the syrup. A fleeting moment of doubt crept in as she recalled an instance from a few days ago. She had overheard Michael on a phone call, his voice low and hushed. The words, "the ceremony," had floated through the air, but she had brushed it off, thinking it was just a friend's wedding he was discussing. "Oh my God," she muttered under her breath, the thought twisting in her stomach. "Sarah? You okay?" Mark's voice pulled her back to the moment. "Yeah, just a lot on my mind," she said, shaking off the unease. "I'll talk to him about it. Thanks for the heads up." After hanging up, she stood silently in the kitchen, the smell of pancakes now tinged with anxiety. The cheerful sounds of birds outside felt almost mocking in their lightness. She knew she had to confront Michael, to draw out whatever secret he was hiding. Later that morning, as Michael entered the kitchen, the sun illuminated his face, casting a halo around his messy hair. He looked like the carefree boy she had always known, and her heart swelled with affection. "Hey, Mom! Smells amazing in here!" "Thanks, sweetie. Sit down. We need to talk," she said. Her voice steady, but her heart raced. Michael raised an eyebrow, the playful smile fading from his lips. "Uh-oh, that sounds serious." Mark mentioned something about a ceremony," she ventured cautiously, trying to gauge his reaction. He hesitated for a moment, the weight of the words hanging in the air like a heavy fog. "Oh, that." He waved his hand dismissively, but she caught the flash of something in his eyes. Guilt? "It's nothing, really." Sarah felt her heart sink. "Michael, if something is going on, I need you to be honest with me. You know you can tell me anything." "Mom, I promise it's nothing to worry about," he insisted, but there was an edge to his voice that made her uneasy. "Are you getting married?" she blurted out, the words tumbling from her lips before she could catch them. His expression shifted, surprise morphing into something akin to panic. "What? No, it's just a—" "Then what is it?" she pressed, feeling the heat of the conversation rising.
"Because I can't shake the feeling that you're hiding something from me." Michael looked down, his fingers fidgeting with the edge of the tablecloth. I didn't want to ruin anything, okay? I was going to tell you soon." Sarah felt a sharp pang in her chest, a mix of hurt and confusion. "Ruin what? Michael, you're my son. You can't think hiding something like this would be better for me?" In that moment, the kitchen felt like a battleground, the air thick with unsaid words and unasked questions. The smell of pancakes, once comforting, now felt suffocating. "Mom," he finally said, his voice barely above a whisper, "I got married last week. Just me and Emily. We didn't want a big fuss." A silence enveloped them, and Sarah's mind raced. Emily, the charming girl who had always seemed just a little too perfect, a little too manipulative. Her heart sank further, realizing the gravity of what Michael had just revealed. "Married? Oh my God, I can't believe this," she said, her voice shaking. "You didn't even think to tell me?" Michael looked up, desperation in his eyes. "I wanted to, but I didn't know how you would react. I thought you'd be upset." "Upset? Michael, this is something I should have been a part of," she exclaimed, the weight of betrayal heavy on her chest. In that moment, Sarah understood. The secret had not only shattered her trust, but altered their relationship forever. She had to find a way to navigate this new reality, but for now, all she could do was absorb the shocking truth that had changed everything in her world. Sarah gazed out the window. "What a beautiful day," she whispered. Emily noticed her distant look. "You seem lost in thought." As the aroma of fresh pancakes filled the kitchen, Sarah's heart raced in tandem with the sound of the birds chirping outside her window. It was a Sunday morning ritual, the kind that had always brought her family together. But today, the weight of the news she had just uncovered loomed heavier than the fluffy stacks she had lovingly prepared. She could still hear the commotion on social media, the buzz of her friends' notifications as they shared the wedding photos that had gone viral overnight. "Michael and Emily?" she had gasped, her heart sinking deeper with each click. It felt like the ground beneath her was crumbling, the betrayal seeping into every corner of her being. The images were vivid, her son in a simple suit, his smile wide and genuine, but standing next to Emily, the girl who had charmed her way into their lives and had a knack for manipulation that was unsettling. "Oh my God," Sarah murmured to herself as she set the syrup down, her fingers trembling slightly. She couldn't believe this was happening. Her son had gotten married without so much as a word to her. It stung, a bitter reminder of how quickly things could change without warning. She could almost taste the salt of her tears mixing with the sweetness of the syrup. Just then, Jake sauntered into the kitchen, still half asleep, his hair tousled and his eyes barely open. "What's up?" he asked, scratching his head. "Did you see the photos?" Sarah's voice cracked slightly, the question hanging heavy in the air. Jake shrugged, pouring himself a cup of coffee. "Yeah, I saw. It's crazy. But, I mean, it's not like it's surprising. They've been together forever, right?" "Forever?" Sarah echoed incredulously. "They've been together for, what, a year? This was spontaneous, Jake, and they planned it behind my back." Her voice rose, fueled by a mix of disbelief and hurt. "Maybe they just wanted it to be private," Jake said, trying to downplay her feelings. "Not everything needs to be a big family affair, you know?" Sarah felt her heart race again, not from the warmth of the kitchen, but from the coldness of her son's secret. "You don't understand," she said, shaking her head. "It's not just about the wedding. It's about him not trusting me enough to share this. I put everything into raising him, and now I feel like I don't even know him." Jake rolled his eyes, clearly annoyed. Well, maybe if you weren't so focused on him all the time, he wouldn't have felt that way. In that moment, Sarah paused, taking a deep breath. Cultural reflection. In the kitchen, it hurt like betrayal. She had always been there for her children, pouring her heart and soul into every moment, every decision. Yet here she was, feeling like she was losing one of them to the very girl she had tried to welcome into their lives. Just then, Mark walked in, sensing the tension in the air. "What's going on?" he asked, his voice steady and calm, a stark contrast to the storm brewing within her. "Michael got married without telling me," Sarah blurted out, her voice trembling. "I found out through social media. How is that even possible?" Mark looked taken aback, his brow furrowing. "Wow, I can't believe that. Did you talk to him yet?" "No," she admitted, her mind racing. "I need to process this. I don't know how he could do this to me, to us." "Maybe he thought it would be easier this way," Mark suggested, trying to be helpful. "You know how Emily can be. She's always been a bit persuasive." Sarah nodded, the memories flooding back, Emily's charm, her ability to weave stories that captivated everyone. But behind that charm lay a history of manipulation that left a bitter taste in Sarah's mouth. "She didn't just charm him, she pulled him in and wrapped him around her finger," Sarah said, her voice laced with frustration. "I should have seen it coming." "Sarah," Mark said softly, placing a hand on her shoulder, "you did your best. Sometimes kids make choices we can't control. Just remember, you're not alone in this." In that moment, the kitchen felt like a refuge, a place where the chaos of the outside world could be contained, even if only for a little while.
Reflection. That moment in the kitchen changed everything. Sarah took a deep breath, steeling herself for the conversation she knew she had to have with Michael. "I need to confront him," she said finally, determination building within her. "He deserves to hear how I feel, even if it's going to be hard." Mark nodded in agreement. "I'll be here for you, whatever you need." As the sound of birds chirping continued to float through the open window, Sarah realized that the storm within her was just beginning. She had lost a piece of her son, but she wasn't ready to lose him completely. With a heavy heart and a resolute spirit, she prepared to face the truth, hoping it wouldn't shatter the bond they had built over the years. Sarah took a deep breath. "We need to have a serious conversation." Emily tensed up. About what exactly? The smell of fresh coffee filled the kitchen, wrapping around Sarah like a warm hug as she stood by the countertop. The morning light streamed through the window, illuminating the chaos that had taken over her thoughts since the wedding photos had gone viral. She gripped her coffee mug tightly, her knuckles turning white, trying to find comfort in the familiar ceramic. Just then, the doorbell rang, its sound mingling with the gentle clinking of wind chimes outside. Sarah hesitated, her heart racing. Who could it be? She set the mug down with a soft clatter and made her way to the door. As she opened it, Mark stood there, his expression serious. "Hey Sarah, I heard the news," he said, stepping inside without waiting for an invitation. His voice was steady, but his eyes betrayed his concern. "Oh my God, Mark, I can't believe this is happening," Sarah exclaimed, her voice trembling. "Michael didn't even tell me. He's married to Emily, of all people." Mark sighed, running a hand through his hair. "I know, this is a shock, but I think we need to talk about it. There might be more to the story." Sarah raised an eyebrow, leaning against the doorframe. "What do you mean? It's pretty straightforward. He got married without telling me. It's a betrayal." "That's just it," Mark replied, stepping closer. "I spoke to an old family friend last night. They mentioned that Emily's family has a history of controlling relationships. It's possible that Michael is under more pressure than you realize." Sarah's heart sank at the thought. She had always known Emily to be charming, but manipulative, using her charm to wrap people around her finger. "You're telling me that my son is trapped? That he didn't choose this?" Mark nodded slowly. "It's worth considering. You should talk to him." I need to confront him, Sarah said, her voice firm. This is unacceptable. With renewed determination, Sarah made her way back to the kitchen, her thoughts racing. She needed to understand the situation fully. She grabbed her phone and dialed Michael's number,
her pulse quickening as she waited for him to pick up. "Mom?" His voice came through, hesitant and cautious. "Michael, we need to talk," Sarah said, her tone leaving no room for argument. "About what?" he asked, the defensiveness creeping in. "About your marriage. You went behind my back and didn't even have the decency to tell me. What were you thinking?" There was a pause on the line, and Sarah could almost hear the gears turning in his mind. "I didn't want to upset you, Mom. It was a last-minute decision." "Oh, so now I'm just someone to keep in the dark?" Sarah replied, her voice rising. "You're my son, and I deserve to know what's happening in your life. You're married to Emily, a woman with a history of manipulating everyone around her." "Mom, please, it's not like that," Michael protested. "You don't understand." "Then help me understand," she shouted, frustration boiling over. "Is this what you really want, or are you just doing what she wants?" "Mom, it's complicated," he said, his voice softening. "I care about her, but what?" Sarah pressed, desperation creeping into her voice. "You can't just marry someone without thinking it through. It happened so fast. I didn't think." "Exactly. You didn't think," Sarah interrupted, her heart racing. "You're letting someone else dictate your life, and I can't sit back and watch this happen." A silence settled between them, and Sarah took a deep breath, her heart heavy. The weight of the moment crashed down on her, and she realized this was not just about the wedding. This was about her son's future, his happiness, and the potential darkness lurking beneath the surface. "Michael, I'm scared for you," she finally said, her voice breaking. "I don't want you to end up in a controlling relationship. You deserve to be happy, truly happy." "I know, Mom," he replied softly, "but I need to figure this out on my own." Sarah hung up the phone, her chest tightening as she leaned against the countertop. The smell of coffee now tinged with bitterness. In that moment, she understood the depth of her son's struggle. Cultural reflection. In the kitchen, it hurt like strength. As the wind chimes tinkled softly outside, a new wave of emotions washed over her. She had always believed that family came first, but now she felt a chasm growing between her and her son. "Mark, I can't just sit here and do nothing," she said, turning to him. "I need to protect him." "I'll help you," Mark offered, his tone resolute. "But you need to be careful. Confronting Emily directly could backfire." "I know," Sarah replied, her mind racing with possibilities. "But I can't ignore this. If there's a chance Michael is being manipulated, I have to act." With a newfound sense of purpose, Sarah steeled herself. She would find a way to reach her son, to show him the truth, and to fight for the happiness he deserved, even if it meant confronting the storm that was Emily. "I can't believe you did this," Sarah exclaimed. Emily tried to explain, but words failed him. The sun hung low in the sky, casting long shadows across the backyard where Sarah had spent countless Sundays with her family. The smell of fresh grass filled the air, and the distant hum of traffic created a backdrop that felt familiar yet foreign. Sarah leaned against the fence, her heart heavy as she replayed the events of the last few days in her mind. She had finally mustered the courage to confront Michael after the wedding photos went viral. The shock had been unbearable when she first saw him in a tuxedo, standing beside Emily, who wore a radiant white gown. "Oh my God, I can't believe this," she had whispered to herself, a mix of disbelief and betrayal washing over her. Mark stood a few paces away, his presence a comforting anchor amidst her emotional storm. "Sarah, you need to talk to him," he said gently, concern etched on his face. "This secrecy, it doesn't sit right." "I know," she replied, her voice shaking. "But how could he do this? I thought we were a family that communicated, that shared everything." As she stared into the distance, the realization hit her like a cold wave. Michael hadn't just acted out of impulsivity. He was caught in a web of expectations, a delicate dance of family pressures that he had never wanted to burden her with. The thought of him fearing disappointment made her heart sink deeper. He had always been the one to try and please everyone, and now, it seemed, he was sacrificing his own happiness in the process. Mark stepped closer, sensing her turmoil. What if you're looking at this all wrong? Maybe he was scared of the fallout. You know how families can be. His words struck a chord, prompting a shift in Sarah's perspective. He was trying to protect us, wasn't he? She murmured, more to herself than to Mark. A pang of guilt washed over her. Had she contributed to this fear? Had her own expectations cast a shadow over his decisions? Just then, Jake sauntered into the yard, a casual air about him that clashed with the gravity of the moment. "What's going on? You both look like you just heard bad news." He leaned against the fence, arms crossed, as if bracing for some impending confrontation. "Michael got married," Sarah said, her voice barely above a whisper. Jake's eyebrows shot up. "Seriously? That's wild. Why didn't he tell us? He knows how Mom gets." He rolled his eyes, a flicker of resentment bubbling beneath the surface. "Jake, this isn't about Mom," Sarah snapped, frustration spilling over. "This is about Michael and the choices he felt he had to make. He was trying to shield us from disappointment, from our own expectations." "Well, maybe if he wasn't so busy trying to please everyone, he wouldn't be in this mess," Jake retorted, his tone biting. "Enough!" Sarah cried, her heart racing. "You don't get it. This is bigger than us." He's been trapped between two worlds, both families pulling at him, and he felt he had to choose. Jake looked taken aback, his bravado fading. "I didn't realize. I just thought he was being selfish." Mark stepped in, his voice calm yet firm. "It's easy to judge from the outside, Jake, but we need to support him, not push him away." The air hung heavy with tension as they all stood in silence, contemplating the weight of their words. In that moment, Sarah felt a flicker of hope. Perhaps they could mend the rift that had formed, not just between them and Michael, but also within their own hearts. "Let's talk to him," Sarah finally said, determination settling in her chest. "We need to understand what's happening, not just assume the worst." Jake nodded slowly, the resentment beginning to dissipate. "Yeah, maybe we can help him see that he doesn't have to choose. We're still a family." Mark smiled, encouraging. "Exactly. Let's bring him back into the fold." As they turned to leave, preserve the original language of relief wash over her. The realization that Michael had acted out of fear instead of malice sparked a new sense of compassion within her. She couldn't change what had happened, but she could help reshape the future. Reflecting on the day, Sarah thought about the delicate balance of family and the unspoken pressures that often went unaddressed. She felt her heart begin to mend, knowing they would face this challenge together. The backyard, once a place of joy and laughter, now stood as a reminder of the complexities of love and family ties, both beautiful and fraught with unspoken burdens. But it was in this very complexity that she found strength. Together, they could navigate the choppy waters ahead, united and resilient. As they walked toward the house, Sarah felt a light breeze dance through the air, rustling the leaves of the oak tree that stood sentinel in the backyard. The scent of blooming roses wafted past her. A reminder of simpler times, when their biggest worries revolved around which games to play. Now, the stakes felt much higher. "Do you think he'll listen?" Jake asked, a hint of uncertainty creeping into his voice. "I hope so," Sarah replied, glancing at him. "He needs to know we're here for him, no matter what." She could see the hesitation in her brother's eyes, the way he fidgeted with the hem of his shirt. It mirrored her own fears about confronting Michael. Mark, walking slightly ahead, turned back to them. "You know, it might help if we share our own feelings too. It's not just about him. We've all been affected by this." "Right," Sarah nodded, the weight of her own emotions settling heavily on her chest. I think I'll tell him how I felt when I saw those photos. It broke my heart, but I also want him to know I understand why he did it." As they approached the door, Sarah felt a surge of adrenaline. This wasn't just a conversation. It was a pivotal moment that could reshape their family. She took a deep breath, steadying herself as she reached for the doorknob. "Let's just be honest," she said, looking back at her brother and Mark. "No more secrets. It's time we stop dancing around each other." "Agreed," Mark said, his voice steady and reassuring. Jake cleared his throat. "Okay, but if he gets defensive, we need to stay calm. No shouting, no blaming, just understanding." With a nod, Sarah pushed the door open, the familiar creak of the hinges echoing in the silence of the house. Inside, the living room was filled with soft afternoon light filtering through the curtains, casting warm shadows on the walls. It felt like a sanctuary, yet she was acutely aware of the storm brewing beneath the surface. "Michael?" she called out, her voice echoing softly. The house felt eerily quiet, amplifying the tension that hung in the air. She felt her heart race, a mixture of hope and fear swirling within her. Would he be waiting for them, or had he already retreated into the shadows of his choices? Sarah stood on the porch, the morning sun filtering through the leaves of the oak tree, casting dappled shadows on the wooden planks beneath her feet. The wind chimes sang softly in the breeze, their gentle melody a stark contrast to the turmoil swirling in her heart. She cradled her mug of fresh coffee, the rich aroma swirling around her, grounding her as she tried to process the whirlwind of emotions that had erupted since she discovered the wedding photos. Her mind raced, replaying the moments after she'd stumbled across the images on social media. "Oh my God," she had whispered to herself, her heart sinking as she recognized the smiles on their faces. Michael in a tuxedo, looking so handsome and grown up, and Emily, radiant in a wedding gown that seemed to shimmer with deceit. How could he have hidden this from her? The betrayal cut deep, but beneath the anger, a flicker of concern ignited. Was this truly what Michael wanted? Mark arrived just in time, sensing the gravity of the situation. He stepped onto the porch, concern etched across his features. "Hey, Sarah," he said softly, his voice a balm against her rising anxiety. "I saw the photos. Are you okay?" She took a deep breath, trying to steady herself. "I can't believe this, Mark. He married her without telling me." Her voice trembled with both fury and fear. "What if this is a huge mistake?" Mark leaned against the railing, his expression thoughtful. "You know, maybe it's time to think about what Michael wants, not just what you think is best for him." Sarah turned to look at him, her heart racing. "But it's Emily. She's charming, yes, but she's also manipulative. You know what she's done before." "I do, but is it your place to decide who he can love? He's an adult, Sarah." His words hung in the air, a challenge she wasn't ready to face. But as she looked out at the yard, the smell of fresh coffee now mingling with the scent of blooming flowers, she felt a swell of strength rising within her. Could she really stand in the way of her son's happiness, even if it terrified her? "Maybe you're right," she said slowly, the weight of her decision pressing down on her. "But I need to talk to him. I can't let this go without at least trying." Mark nodded, his support unwavering. "Just be honest, Sarah. Tell him how you feel, but listen too. You might be surprised." Taking a deep breath, she stepped off the porch and headed inside, her heart pounding in her chest. The air felt thick with anticipation, the kind that comes before a storm. In the living room, she found Michael lounging on the couch, still in his tuxedo, a faraway look in his eyes. The sight of him brought a wave of conflicting emotions crashing over her, love, anger, and fear all jostling for space. "Michael," she began, her voice steady despite the turmoil inside, "we need to talk." He looked up, surprise flickering in his eyes. "Mom, Just let me finish," she interrupted, her heart racing. "I saw the photos. I can't believe you got married without telling me. You know how much I care about you, but I need you to understand where I'm coming from." Michael shifted, his expression darkening. Mom, I didn't want to hurt you. I love Emily. She makes me happy. Sarah felt her heart constrict. But do you really know her? She's not the person you think she is. I've seen how she treats people. You deserve someone who will uplift you, not manipulate you. His brows furrowed, and for a moment, silence enveloped them, thick and heavy. Why can't you just be happy for me? He shot back, frustration lacing his words. I'm an adult. I can make my own choices. The truth in his statement stung like a bee, and she could feel the walls closing in. I'm not trying to control you, Michael. I just worry. You're my son, and I want what's best for you.
Maybe what's best for me is what I've chosen, he exclaimed, his voice rising. Sarah took a step back, the smell of coffee suddenly feeling suffocating. In that moment, she realized her son was right. She needed to let him make his own choices, even if it broke her heart. I can't lose you, she whispered, tears welling in her eyes. Michael's expression softened, and he stood up, crossing the distance between them. You're not losing me, Mom, I promise, but I need you to trust me. In that moment, Sarah's resolve crystallized. She was terrified, but she knew she had to support Michael, even if it meant confronting her own fears. Okay, she said, her voice shaking but resolute. I'll try, but I want to meet her, Michael. I need to understand what you see in her. He nodded slowly, a hint of relief washing over his features. I'd like that. Just be open-minded, okay? As they stood there, the tension between them easing, Sarah felt a glimmer of hope. The path ahead was uncertain, but perhaps, just perhaps, it would lead to healing for both of them. Cultural reflection. In the porch, it hurt like strength. As she embraced him, the weight of the world seemed to lift, leaving behind the possibility of reconciliation and understanding. They had a long road ahead, but she was ready to walk it, one step at a time. Sarah clenched her fists. I don't want to hear any more excuses. Emily hung his head. I'm truly sorry. The backyard was quiet, save for the gentle rustling of leaves and the soft tinkling of wind chimes hanging from the porch. Sarah stood there, her heart racing, as she faced Michael and Emily. The scent of rain on pavement lingered in the air, mixing with the sweet smell of apple pie cooling on the kitchen counter. A storm was brewing, and not just in the skies. Michael, I can't believe you didn't tell me, Sarah said, her voice trembling with a mix of anger and disbelief. You got married, and I had to find out from social media?
Michael shifted uncomfortably, his tuxedo looking out of place in the casual setting. Mom, I didn't want to upset you. I thought... You thought what? Sarah interrupted, her frustration boiling over. That keeping this from me would somehow protect me? My heart sank when I saw those photos. I felt completely blindsided. Emily stood beside him, her expression a mask of feigned sympathy. Sarah, I know this is hard, but we wanted to keep things simple. We didn't want a big fuss. A big fuss? Sarah echoed, incredulous. You didn't think it would be a big fuss to marry my son without telling me? This is my family too. Jake appeared at the back door, drawn by the escalating tension. He lingered in the shadows, resentment bubbling beneath his surface as he watched his mother confront his brother. What's going on? He asked, trying to sound casual but failing miserably. Just a little family discussion, Sarah replied, her eyes not leaving Michael's. Why don't you join us? He stepped forward, arms crossed. You're making a scene, Mom. It's not like you're the only one who has feelings here. Sarah turned to Jake, feeling a mix of hurt and frustration. You think this is just about me? This is about the trust we had as a family. I thought I raised you both to be honest with each other. Emily chimed in, her tone dripping with false sweetness. We were being honest, just not in the way you expected. Sometimes life doesn't go according to plan. Life doesn't go according to plan? Sarah laughed bitterly, her voice echoing in the stillness of the backyard. You've changed my son's life without even a heads up. This isn't just a plan gone wrong, this is betrayal." Michael's face hardened. "Mom, you need to calm down. This is our life now." "Your life?" Sarah spat. "You think this is just about you?" My heart sank when I realized I was the last to know, the one left out of the biggest moment in your life. You're my son, Michael. In that moment, the tension in the air shifted. Michael looked at Emily, and Sarah noticed a flicker of doubt in his eyes. Maybe we need to think about this," he murmured, almost to himself. "What do you mean?" Emily's voice turned sharp, her facade cracking. "You can't be serious?" "I don't know, Em," Michael replied, uncertainty creeping into his voice. "This is a lot. Maybe we should take a break and figure things out." The words hung in the air, heavy and unexpected. Sarah felt a rush of emotions, a mix of relief and confusion. "Wait, are you saying you want to take a break from your marriage?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Jake's eyes widened, clearly surprised by the sudden turn of events. "You can't be serious, Mike. You just got married." "Does it matter?" Michael shot back, frustration flaring. "We rushed into this. I didn't even talk to Mom about it." Emily's expression twisted into a scowl. "You're not serious about this. You can't just throw everything away because of a little family drama." "Little?" Sarah interjected, feeling a surge of power. "This is about trust and honesty, and it's clear you don't respect either of those, Emily." Michael turned to Sarah, his eyes searching for answers. "Mom, I didn't mean for it to get to this point. I just wanted to be happy." "Being happy shouldn't come at the cost of your family," Sarah said firmly. "You can't just cut us out because you're scared of how we'll react." As the wind picked up, the chimes sang a haunting melody. The storm clouds gathered overhead, mirroring the turmoil in their hearts. In that moment, everything changed. In the backyard, it hurt like strength. Michael's shoulders slumped as he looked at Emily. "Maybe we both need some space. I need to think." Emily's jaw dropped, and her carefully crafted mask shattered. "You can't be serious, Michael. You'll regret this." "Maybe I won't," he replied, determination creeping into his tone. Jake watched, a mix of surprise and admiration washing over him. "Wow, Mike, I didn't think you had it in you." Mark, who had been quietly observing from the side, stepped forward. "Sarah, you need to focus on what's best for you and your family. This is the time to stand strong." With a new sense of clarity, Sarah nodded. "I won't let this divide us. We can work through this, but you both have to be honest with me from now on." As the first drops of rain began to fall, mingling with the tension in the air, Sarah felt a flicker of hope. Maybe this was the moment they all needed, a chance to rebuild, even if it started with a storm. "Enough!" Sarah shouted, her voice echoing. "Please, let me speak," Emily pleaded. "There's nothing left to say," Sarah finalized. As Sarah stood on the porch, the familiar sound of wind chimes dancing in the breeze mingled with the fresh scent of rain-soaked pavement. She wrapped her arms around herself, a futile attempt to ward off the chill that settled in her bones. The chaos of emotions surged within her, a storm of disappointment and betrayal brewing just beneath the surface. She could still hear Michael's words echoing in her mind, the way he'd tried to justify keeping his marriage a secret. "I didn't want to upset you, Mom," he had said, his voice shaky yet firm. "Oh my God, I can't believe this," Sarah whispered to herself, feeling her heart sink deeper into her chest. She took a deep breath, attempting to steady herself. The aroma of fresh coffee wafted from the kitchen, but it couldn't distract her from the reality of the situation. Michael had chosen to build his life without her, and the thought was unbearable. Mark leaned against the porch railing, watching her with a concerned expression. "You okay?" he asked gently, his voice barely above a whisper, as if speaking too loudly might shatter the fragile moment. Sarah shook her head, tears welling in her eyes. "How could he do this to me? To us?" she replied, her voice thick with emotion. "I feel like I don't even know my own son anymore." Mark stepped closer, placing a comforting hand on her shoulder. "He's still your son, Sarah. He just made a choice. You need to give him time to explain." The wind picked up, rustling the leaves of nearby trees, and for a moment, Sarah was lost in thought. That moment on the porch changed everything. Would she ever be able to forgive him? Would he ever truly understand the hurt he had caused? Suddenly, the door creaked open and Jake emerged, his brow furrowed in concern. "I heard about what happened," he said, his tone heavy with unspoken resentment. "You're taking this way too hard, Mom. It's just a wedding." Sarah turned to her youngest son, frustration bubbling to the surface. "It's not just a wedding, Jake. It's a betrayal. I thought we were a family that shared everything." Jake crossed his arms, a defensive gesture. "Well,
Maybe if you weren't so focused on Michael, you'd see that I need support too. This isn't just about you." The tension hung in the air, thick and suffocating. Sarah could feel the weight of Jake's resentment, a reminder of how her devotion to Michael had often overshadowed her other child's needs. Cultural reflection. In the porch, it hurt like hope. "Listen," Mark interjected, sensing the rising conflict. "This isn't the time to fight. You both need each other right now, more than ever." Jake frowned, but he didn't respond. Instead, he turned his gaze to the horizon, where dark clouds loomed. Sarah felt the distance growing between her and her sons, a chasm created by secrets and misunderstandings. As the rain began to fall, a gentle patter on the wooden planks, Sarah felt a flicker of hope ignite within her. Maybe this could be a turning point, a chance for healing. "I need to talk to Michael again," she finally said, her voice steadier.
"I need to understand why he felt he had to hide this from me." Mark nodded approvingly, and Jake shifted slightly, his defensive posture softening. "I'll support you, Mom," he said quietly, as if the weight of the world had lifted just a little. The storm clouds parted slightly, allowing a ray of sunlight to break through. Sarah felt a surge of determination. Thought, the smell of fresh coffee brought painful memories. She realized that the path forward wouldn't be easy, but it was necessary. As she stepped back inside, ready to reach out to Michael once more, she felt the winds of change begin to stir. The truth, no matter how concealed, had surfaced, and with it came the potential for healing, not just for her, but for her entire family. In the chaos of love, we often forget that the truth, no matter how concealed, will always find its way to the surface, and in that revelation lies the power to heal. And you, on your porch. How do you navigate the complexities of love and truth? Sarah smiled for the first time in days. "Everything will be okay." Emily nodded. "You're stronger than you know." As she stepped back inside, ready to reach out to Michael once more, she felt the winds of change begin to stir. The truth, no matter how concealed, had surfaced, and with it came the potential for healing, not just for her, but for her entire family. In the chaos of love, we often forget that the truth, no matter how concealed, will always find its way to the surface, and in that revelation lies the power to heal. Sarah smiled for the first time in days. "Everything will be okay." Emily nodded, her eyes filled with understanding. "You're stronger than you know." "Thanks, Em," Sarah replied, her heart warming at her daughter's support. She could hear the soft gurgle of the coffee pot in the kitchen, the aroma of freshly brewed coffee enveloping the room like a warm embrace. She walked towards the kitchen, her mind racing with thoughts of how she would approach Michael. Jake lingered in the living room, his arms still crossed but his expression shifting. "What if he doesn't want to talk?" he asked, his voice laced with uncertainty. Sarah paused, pouring herself a cup of coffee, letting the steam rise to her face. "Then I'll have to find a way to make him listen. This isn't just about me, it's about us as a family." Emily joined her, taking a seat at the kitchen table. Maybe you can tell him how you feel. He needs to know how much this hurts." Sarah nodded, the weight of the conversation ahead settling heavily on her shoulders. "I know. I don't want to push him further away." The distant sound of traffic hummed outside, a reminder of the world beyond their home. She took a sip of coffee, the bitter taste grounding her as she looked at her children. "We've been through so much together. I refuse to let this tear us apart." Jake uncrossed his arms and leaned against the doorway, his expression softening. "I don't want that either, Mom." "Then let's work together," Sarah suggested, her voice gaining strength. "Let's find a way to bridge this gap." As the rain continued to fall outside, a rhythmic melody against the window panes, Sarah felt a sense of hope creeping in, intertwining with her anxiety. Maybe this was the beginning of something new, a chance to rebuild the trust that had been fractured. "Let's make a plan," Emily said, her enthusiasm shining through. "We can all be there for each other." "Yeah," Jake added, a hint of a smile breaking through. "Together." Sarah smiled at her children, the warmth of their unity filling the kitchen. In that moment, she realized that while the road ahead would be challenging, they had each other. And that, she thought, was a powerful place to start.